Say this with me. Say destiny disruptions. Again, say destiny disruptions. Disruption is the new normal. Disruption. Disruptions are a way of life now. And you must learn to deal with the disruptions. Chaos is the standard, be it in a political race, be it in the job market, getting out of college with a new degree, be it in the medical place, hospitals. Chaos reigns. Stock market has never been more volatile. And you must learn to deal with disruptions. If you're waiting on things to go back to the way they used to be, you may be putting your life on hold for a long time. I challenge you today to get out of the pause mode. And don't let the disruptions of this life deny opportunity. Because if you don't understand how to deal with disruptive circumstances, it could quite possibly decay your destiny. You see, doubt and despair grow when you hesitate. So what would you do if it never goes back to normal? What and how would you conduct your life if this, where we live now, becomes the new normal? You see, hesitation is dangerous. At a threshold, you're neither here nor there. When you stand at the precipice of a threshold, you're not in, you're not out. And fear of the in-between will destroy you. You must make a decision to move. Step off the edge of the cliff with your reckless faith that God will catch you before you strike the ground. Again, I ask a question. If things never go back to the comfort level that you used to enjoy, how will that impact your relationship with God? Will you deny attendance in the house of God permanently? Will you be subdued in your worship for the rest of your life? Will it impact your interaction with friends and people and relationships? Will it hinder the next hookup romantically in your life? What happens if it doesn't go back to your comfort zone? You cannot allow the in-between, the disruption, to dictate the terms of your destiny. Who decides what's normal after all? Acts chapter 8 tells us very clearly that God sent Saul to persecute the church, to drive them out of Jerusalem, because the church had refused to do the work of the church. The church had made Jerusalem a monument, and they spent their time in Jerusalem with occasional forays. But the Great Commission was go into Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the uttermost parts of the earth. But they had made Jerusalem the place to be. Their focus was Jerusalem, and so God sent Saul, a professional assassin, to drive them from their comfort zones to invent the church as we know it now. The Bible said that much of the church was persecuted, that he murdered them in their homes, he drugged them into the streets. So again, I ask, who determines what normal is? Have we become so accustomed to having church our way that when disruptions come, we can't pivot and have a fresh relationship with God because we're so bound by our concepts and ideas? Who decides what is normal after all? Can you deal with the chaos? Can you handle the disruption? Or would the fear of the unknown dictate your response? You see, there is a process to promotion. Promotions require process. Deliverance really is in the details. One of my favorite miracles that Jesus performs in the Gospels is John 9. John 9 tells a unique story about a man who has been blind from his birth. And this man who has never seen a sunrise, never watched the sky painted red by the beauty of the setting sun, that man sits by the highway side, and he is seemingly a random interaction by Jesus and the disciples. For they're passing him by on the side of the road, and the disciples decide to use someone else's difficulty as a teaching moment, a learning moment. And they pass by this stranger, and one of the disciples poses a question. Lord, who sinned? This man or his parents? Who made the mistake that made him like he is? Was it generational or was it personal? Was it the man or was it his family? Who caused him to be the mess that he is? You see, why is it that as human beings, we always want an explanation we can understand? Who's at fault here? Is this because of some parental mistake, or is this some personal choice that put him in this position? Why is he like what he is? Can I challenge you in this house? Reserve your judgment on why you think people are broken. Because more often than not, you're wrong. And I've always marveled at this miracle, because here is this man sitting on the side of the road, and he becomes the object of a theological discussion. Because it was a principle that was espoused and taught and believed in current Israel, that if you were broken, if you were crippled or lame, or you could not speak or could not hear, you could not see, that it was because there was some sin in your life or your family. So this is a common thought process unfolding. So this man is like the subject of a theological discussion. You know, I would prefer if you don't talk about my problems to learn from them as a theological discussion publicly. Just so you know. Think about that. How would you love it if Pastor got up and said, well, the worship leader, let me tell you what this problem is. They're airing his dirty laundry. But you know what I love about the blind man in John 9? According to Scripture, he never retaliates. He never gets angry. He never opens his mouth. He hears them speak shamingly about his mom and his dad, and he keeps his mouth shut. He never defends his family. He never fights for his own self-respect. Who sinned? This man? You say, Pastor, they couldn't have been that close. Sure they are, because Jesus speaks to him. Who sinned? This man or his parents? And the man never opens his mouth to criticize, to be sarcastic, to be aggressive, to give his opinion, to defend. What an amazing spiritual trait we all could develop. Keeping our mouth shut when people talk about us negatively. Resisting the me too, whoever said that. Resisting the urge to be caustic and adversarial. Resisting the urge to fight back. Resisting the urge to deliver criticism when criticism is delivered. I can think of someone else who did that. The Scripture said about Jesus that when they railed upon him, he railed not in return. What would your marriage be like if you could just hold your peace? What would your marriage be like if you wouldn't retaliate with your words? What would your parenting be like if you didn't answer sarcasm with sarcasm? I'm making you uncomfortable right now, aren't I? But think about it for a moment. This guy's mom has been attacked. This guy's mother is being thrown under the bus, so to speak, along with daddy and himself. I don't know about you, but I think I'd have wanted to say something. Who are you to talk about my mama? You don't even know my mama. You never met my mom. In fact, you don't know me. Don't judge me by what I look like. Don't judge me by where I am. Don't make an assumption about my brokenness and dictate the terms of my future by your wrong philosophies. I would have had a hard time remaining silent. I'll just be honest. You know, people ask me a lot, say, Pastor, what is your gift of the Spirit? Well, mine is the gift of gab. Did you just agree to that? And throttling down the response would have been difficult for me. But I wonder, how many miracles have we aborted because we knew best? How much of our deliverance have we derailed because we couldn't keep our mouths shut? Because I'm pretty sure if he would have interrupted the process, the details, he sacrifices the supernatural. So just a tip before we really preach. Watch what you say, because your words matter. Be careful when you speak and how you speak, because your words carry weight. The power of life and death, according to James, a brother of Jesus, is in the tongue. Be careful what you type on your computer. Be careful what you post on Twitter and Instagram. Those words live forever. They never come back. And I wouldn't want something you're texting or posting today come back and destroy the possibility for a breakthrough later in your life because you said it in the response of anger, frustration. I wouldn't let the racial tension of this day make me say things I'd regret later. I'm just telling you right now, I wouldn't let the political negativity of this day cause me to say something that's going to destroy me at a later date. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't let someone else's hatred cause me to respond with hatred. You say, Pastor, I can't do that. I can't do that. Well, I have struggles with it too. But how about let's just take a lesson out of John 9 and let's be careful how we respond to the criticism and the adversarial comments of other people. So I marvel at this man's ability not to play the victim. This man has been blind since birth. And in Jerusalem and in Israel at that time, you were an outcast. You had to wear a particular garment that signified your state in the caste system. So they knew who you were, so you could be avoided. And they made assumptions about you because of what you looked like and who you were. Let me make it plain. You better be careful making assumptions about people around you, because there's winners in some tough places. There's some victorious people. There's some people who are about to be delivered in some pretty raunchy places right now, but we're coming out. The man doesn't say a word. I have a theory of why he didn't talk. He's a victim of the same erroneous concept that your difficulties are a result not only of your sin potentially, but your parents' sin. And he wants to know the answer also. Good question, disciples. Why am I the way I am? Why am I in this position that I'm in? Why has this happened? And Jesus says it very clearly. And can you imagine what has to shoot through the mind and the concepts of this man when he hears these words? It's not he or his parents. It's not his parents' fault, and it's not his fault. Can you imagine how liberating it must have been for the first time in your life to hear someone say, you're not to blame for where you are? Can you imagine how freeing it must have been? It's not your mom or your daddy's fault, but that the glory of God might be revealed in his life. Could it be that if you would stop looking for someone to blame, you would open up the possibility for God to turn your life around? If you'd stop looking for someone to finger with the responsibility and just say, all right, God, whether it's me or whether it's my parents, I'm ready for you to do something in my life. I'm ready right now for something supernatural to unfold. So I'm just going to stay out of my own way, and my words get in my way too much. So I'll just keep my mouth closed and let your goodness and your mercy reveal itself in my life. Who sinned? Not this man, not his parents, neither this man, neither his parents, but that the glory of God might be revealed in his life. You know what that scripture is telling you? God can get glory out of your adversity. God can get glory out of your failings. God can get glory out of your sin. God can get glory out of your mistake. God can get glory out of the situations that look so negative to you and other people. But God has a way of getting glory out of what we can't see. Watch what happens next. Jesus then ministers to the man, but that the glory of God might be revealed. Jesus speaks a short sermon to his disciples, and then he reaches down and makes mud out of the clay with his own spittle. He takes that mud and he rubs it into the face of the man. And I've always found this amazing, and I've heard lots of theories from lots of ministers. What did he do? Well, he was making new eyeballs, and he was spitting on the ground and making eyeballs. I'm not really sure they have much scripture for that, all right? He's making new eyeballs. He's putting new eyeballs in his man. I don't know. Is he humiliating him? Feels like it to me a little bit. I mean, I'm already blind. What are you making things worse for? I already can't see. I've already been a spectacle all my life. I've sat on the side of the road being left out for most of my life. And now you're putting mud on me and embarrassing me. And think about it. When the stimuli of one sense is removed, other stimuli are greater. So he hears well, he feels well, and suddenly he feels hands hit him. And then he wonders, what's that stench and what's that wet stuff being shoved all over his face? If I would have been dramatic today, I should have had mud and rubbed it on someone. Maybe that would have helped you get the idea. Yeah, I mean, I got to play Jesus. It'd have to be somebody else. So. But he rubbed it on him, and he says, look. He says, look. I know I keep it cold in here, but I'm hot, folks. So watch. All right, so she tells me that all the time. I'm starting to believe it, so. Relax, okay? But he rubs this spittle in this mud on his face. And then he tells him, go to the pool of Siloam and wash. Go. The miracle doesn't happen when he touches him. And we have a concept that we're turning into a false doctrine. That when you feel the touch of God, everything turns out all right. Sometimes the touch of God is meant to push you to do more, not to deliver you instantaneously. But we've got this idea, well, I felt God and everything didn't turn in my favor. I don't know why it didn't turn in my favor. The touch of God can make things more difficult. Did you hear me? What's the man's affliction? He's blind, right? Now he's doubly blind. Now he's blind with mud in your eye. How many know it doesn't feel good to get stuff in your eyes? Jesus made him uncomfortable. You say he closed his eyelids, Pastor. Yeah, you ever got stuff all over your face even with your eyelids closed and your eyes come open and it gets in your eyes and it's irritating and it's frustrating? The touch of God made his life more frustrating. The touch of God brought irritation to his life. The touch of God made his ability to see even more unlikely. It doubled down on the adversity, so to speak. It's like Jesus took mud and said, you're blind, I'm going to make sure you can't see a thing. And he puts mud all over his face because sometimes the move of God in your life can be mysterious, confusing. You can't really understand it. And you step back and say, what is God doing? I'm going to church. I'm giving. I'm being a good person. I'm loving my neighbor. But my life's not finding balance. It's worse than it was. What's going on? I'm in the right place. I heard a message that I thought was going to free me, that it's not my fault and it's not my family's fault. But now God's putting expectations on me. I thought this was about deliverance. He's putting demands on me. He's putting things on me. I got to go and wash. What about washing me off? And the opportunity for offense was huge, magnified at this moment. He's so angry, so frustrated already. He's already been grappling with blindness his entire life. And now to add insult to injury, go wash. So to all the worshipers, I pose a question. What do you do when things get darker rather than brighter? What do you do when you're doing all the right stuff, when you're coming to the house of God and you're worshiping God and it doesn't turn in your favor, it turns against you? What do you do when God's been faithful and God's been good and you're celebrating His greatness, but when you come for prayer, you don't get a miracle? In fact, the doctor's report only intensifies in its negativity. What do you do when you pray and you've been faithful, but the marriage still disintegrates? What do? Do you stomp your foot like a petulant child, and do you quit God and quit your relationship? Or do you say, okay, God, I'll just keep moving toward the pool. I don't understand this process. I don't understand what's going on in my life, but I won't quit, because promotion requires process. Deliverance is always in the details. And he keeps pressing, and he pushes on, and he refuses the idea that he should be offended. He refuses the idea that it can't happen, and he embraces the additional expectations upon him, and he finds his way through the streets. He gets to the pool of Siloam. He bends over, he begins to wash, and the scripture said, as he washed, his eyes were opened. As he washed. So I pose a theoretical question. Does it happen if he never washes? If he has received an authentic and genuine touch of Jesus Christ, but he does not head to the pool, does it unfold for him? Does the miracle happen? He washes it. His eyes, he sees, he tells his parents, the celebration begins to unfold. People are blown away. But the Pharisees, they're a little frustrated by this. They're angry by this, so they confront him. How is it that you see? How did this unfold? They confront him and his parents, and that's where we take it up, the text, John 9 and 19. Watch this. And they ask him, saying, is this your son who was born blind? Then how doth he now see? Is this your boy? And how does he see? Because people always want an explanation they can understand. You see, we like control. And you can have faith or you can have control, but you can't have both. And his parents said, we know that this is our son and he was born blind. There's no doubt that, yeah, this is him. By what means he now seeth, we don't know. We weren't there when it happened. Or who hath opened his eyes, we know not. We don't know. We weren't there. We don't know. He is of age. Ask him. He shall speak for himself. You ready? Verse 22, look at this. These words spake his parents because they feared the cancel culture of the Jews. So verse 21 is actually a lie. Go back to verse 21. By what means he now seeth, we know not. Or who hath opened his eyes, we know not. He is of age, ask him. He will speak for himself. And the next verse, verse 22, said, these words spoke his parents because they were afraid of the Jews. Because the Jews had already agreed that if any man did confess he was the Christ, he'll be put out of his worship synagogue. And so the parents tell a lie because they're terrified of the repercussions that will come their way. Can I ask you, what does fear do to your vocabulary? What does the state of the culture we're in do to your testimony? What does it do to your lifestyle of Christianity and your identity? If there has ever been a day that the church needs to rise in prayer, in faith, and in aggressiveness, it's today. I don't know about you, but I refuse to be silenced by the threat of people that disagree with the word of the Lord. I know I'm making you uncomfortable, but your opinion matters just as much as someone else's opinion. And what words do you not speak because you are intimidated by the adversary and his manipulation and his lies? Don't be intimidated by the crowd. Don't be manipulated by people, because we are living in a culture that will push you to say things a certain way. How do you react when the pressure is on? How do you react if you don't follow the crowd? Don't compromise the supernatural to fit in. Don't compromise your relationship with Almighty God for the approval and the affirmation of people. Don't compromise your uniqueness, listen to me, to fit into a lesser religious experience. Can I say that again? You're spirit-filled. You are born again. Stop compromising your uniqueness to be accepted by a lesser religious experience. When you worry about fitting in, you compromise your possibility to make a difference. Proverbs 12:25 says, anxiety weighs down the heart. Fear weighs down the heart. Fear makes you heavy. Fear makes you stumble. But kind words cheer it up. That's why it is so necessary for you to open your mouth and speak the right way. Because anxiety will cause your heart to be heavy. Fear will torment you at night. Stress will cause your heart to fail. Jesus said in the last days, men's hearts would fail for fear. But a good word, open your mouth, church, and speak. Speak faith. Speak hope. Be careful how much of you compromise to fit in. Because your purpose is derailed when your life is spent trying to gain the affirmation of people. Amen. When you try too hard to fit in, you exhaust your significance, your uniqueness. Each of you created by the handiwork of God. Your DNA different, your fingerprints different, the iris of your eye different, the bone structure of your facial, the orbits around your eye. Hear me clearly. You are a unique creation. There is no one like you. Verse 23 said, therefore, said his parents, chapter 9, 23 John, he is of age. They said it again, ask him. We're passing the buck here. He's of age. Ask him. Then again, they called the blind man. Look at this. That was blind and said to him, give God the praise. You ready? Give God the praise. Verse 24, we know that this man is a sinner. Give God the praise, not who did this miracle. Give God the praise. This guy's a sinner. And I love verse 25. He answered and said, whether he be a sinner or not, I don't know. But one thing I know, whereas I was blind, but now I see. Can I ask you, what is the one thing you know? What do you know? That you are saved by grace, redeemed by love divine. That your sins are tossed into a sea of forgetfulness, never to be remembered again. That you are bought with a price. That you could not buy what God has given you. It was earned by grace. That all of us are born sinners short of the glory of God. Perhaps we're focusing too much on the things we don't know when we ought to be focusing on the things we know. You don't know what's happening in the society, so focus on something you know. You don't know what's coming with COVID-19, so focus on something you know. God is good all the time. God is faithful all the time. Stop being tormented by the details that you can't understand or dictate. You were blind, now you see. Perhaps if we got a little more grateful about what God has done for us. Is he a sinner? I don't know. I can't explain it. I just know what God has done for me. And what God has done for me is beyond description. Can I challenge someone to shift your perspective and focus on the things that matter, not the things that don't matter? We're being drawn off course as Christians by all the noise. It's not how long you live in safety, it's how well you live in faith. Did you hear me? It's not how long you live in safety, it's how well you live in faith. This man is a study of perspective. Can I tell you something? Confusion precedes breakthrough. Confusion precedes deliverance. The anxious thoughts that seem so puzzling and discouraging are gateways, doors, thresholds to new levels. And only by persistently doing battle with the things you cannot yet do or you do not yet understand will you ever hope to achieve what an average person will never accomplish. Did you hear what I said? What you yet can't do. What you yet don't understand. Because when confronted with a difficult task, most people quit. You put mud on my face. You amplified my difficulty. You made it darker. I quit. I can't make it to the pool. I can't do that. A sign of a person's spiritual maturity is their ability to live with fear and uncertainty. When things are uncertain, your faith doesn't flex. When things are fearful, your faith doesn't capitulate. Walk the uncertain path in belief. When the average person meets difficulty, they turn away, they lose their song, but lesser people run from confusing circumstances. And they say, hey, it's not for me. But a mature spiritual person understands that life's greatest opportunities are guarded by difficulty. The mature person senses the victory beyond the confusion and says, I can't do this yet. God hasn't healed me yet. I'm not delivered yet. Not that I won't be delivered. You got to put the yet on the end. I'm not good at this yet, but things are going to get better. The situation's going to turn. I told the Ray family, as you've heard me say it, their boys, or two of them are struggling with sickle cell, and one of them already passed away from sickle cell. I've seen every miracle in the Word of God. I've seen blind eyes open. I've seen dead people revived. I've seen cripples get out of wheelchairs. I've seen tumors disappear. I've never heard or seen of someone having the curse of sickle cell removed from their body. But I pray it every day, Ray family, every day, because I haven't seen it yet. It's not that it won't happen. I haven't seen it yet. And I'm believing it's going to happen right now in your family, because a mature spiritual person refuses to see an obstacle. They see the yet, until, struggle, persist through the confusion until you receive victory on the other side. Is that Matt right there? Is that Matt? That's the other brother. Y'all look too much alike for me to know who's who. Stand up. God hasn't healed sickle cell yet. Yet in the hospital too. What, last week, right? Or was that Matt? Who was in the hospital last week? Matt. This church prayed. He got out the next day. Is that right? God hadn't healed it yet, but we're believing for God to finish what He started. If God made you, God can heal you. God can complete you. You say, Pastor, why take a risk like that with your faith? Because until you risk your reputation, God doesn't expose His. You got to stand up and say, I believe. I can't play the guitar yet. I can't do algebra yet. Stop saying I can't do algebra. Say I can't do it yet. I'm not good at public speaking yet. The blind man, I can't see yet. So I'll push through the confusion and the difficulty. I'll stumble and I'll bumble and I'll bump into people and I'll stub my toes, but I'm on my way to wash my face. I'm on my way to finish what He laid out as explanations. I won't complain. I won't blame. I will wash. I don't like to cook. I married an amazing cook. I don't even want to learn to cook. There's a few things I don't want to learn. She gets mad at me because she will leave and be gone, and I'll wait all day to eat. I can walk 30 feet to the kitchen and get something, but I won't even walk to the kitchen because I don't want to do it. I don't want to learn. Keith Piette was over at my house the other day, and I did my first brake job ever. I don't want to learn any more mechanics, Keith. I don't want to be a mechanic. But some of you want to cook. You want to be a chef and a sous chef. You want to have beautiful. I see all these pictures on Instagram. Y'all eat amazing. It's amazing. Unless that's just pretend. Never compare yourself to someone else's highlight reel. That's what social media is. It's a highlight reel. Don't compare yourself to someone else's highlight reel. Listen to me though. If you want to be a great cook, you have to live with the confusion and disappointments until you master the timing, the burnt meals, the dried out meat, the wrongly seasoned food. You have to deal with the disappointment until you master the skills, because difficulty guards the answers you're after. It's not how well you live. Hear me. The question is, have you done what you were placed here to do? Until you have accomplished what you were placed here to do, does it really matter what you've built? What you buy, what you drive, the name on your shoes, or the name on your ball cap? Does it matter? You must do what you were put on this earth to do. You must accomplish your purpose so God gets the glory. Understand the miracle. If the man doesn't persevere to wash the mud out, God gets no glory. It's nothing but an intellectual discussion that he's not the victim. But if the man doesn't complete the process, not only does he not see, Jesus never gets the fame or the acclaim for the miracle. Can I tell you something? You're only effective when you're authentic. Amen. Influence without authenticity always results in hypocrisy. Pretending to be something you're not undermines credibility. And exposure is only a matter of time. If you will work on what you are, what you shall be will manifest. And if you're going to live life on a different level, the destination will not be reached by traveling the same road everyone else has chosen. If you want to be different, you're going to have to act different. If you're going to be different, you're going to have to believe different. If you're going to be different, you're going to have to focus. Because you can't pursue real destiny until you focus. And you can't allow the details to derail your future. So many people are doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they end up with a whole lot of nothing. Don't be distracted. There are so many things. I need to pause there for a moment. I feel the Spirit telling me, you know what? So many people, you got your hand in this discussion and your hand in this discussion, and you're on this media platform and on this, and you're doing a whole lot of stuff, but it's amounting to a whole lot of nothing. You have to deal with the disruptions. Focus on the things that are central to your breakthrough. Don't have a conversation. Wash the mud off. Don't be distracted by people's negativity. What's in front of you right now that is defying your breakthrough? What is in front of you right now that would release you to the next level? Is it your hesitation to expose your own sin by coming to the altar? Is it your fear of what others will think about you? Is it your worry and anxiety about who will respond? Listen to me. It's not how long you live, it's how well you live. If you live a long time and never do anything with the time you live, was it worth it? Watch this, because it's about destiny. I'm about to close. Watch this, Jeremiah 12:5. If thou hast run with the footmen, and they have wearied thee, how can you contend with the horses? If thou hast run with the footmen, and they have wearied thee, then how can thou contend with the horses? I'll read it to you from the NLT. If racing against men makes you tired, how will you race against horses? If you stumble and fall on open ground, what will you do with the thickets near Jordan? Can I tell you something? If you're tired of running with humans, don't sign up for the next level. That's what he said. Because apparently you don't have the strength to run on the next level. When you say to God, I'm sick of this. I can't handle this. I don't like this. You know what you're saying? I can't handle promotion. I can't handle deliverance. I can't handle the next level. Because if the footmen wore you out, if COVID has worn you out, if social media has worn you out, if depression has worn you out, if despair and fear are wearing you out, how are you going to go to the next level of faith? If you can't pass the test you're in right now, how are you going to worship on the next level? It don't matter how much you want to compete with the horses. Don't sign up for a horse race if you can't run with a people race. Until you master the footman race, you can't get in a horse race. You see? But we want to see without the obedience of washing. The blind man's difficulty became heavier. People want promotion without process. Miracles without the mess. And when the process gets more difficult, what is your response? Because you cannot go to the next level without process. Running with the footman. I'm going to run with the footman. Because the next level for my life, and I'm not going to say it anymore, God, I can't handle this, because I'm not going to send the message, Lord, I can't handle the breakthrough that will take me to the next level of my life. So I can't handle the adversity. Process is necessary for appreciation. Hear me, process develops self-esteem. When you have no self-esteem, you need crowd esteem to make you feel better. So you're constantly following the crowd, trying to win popularity and affirmation. Can you stand the mud on your face to get the miracle? Don't believe the lie that if you're promoted high enough, then people will like you. You don't need people to like you to like yourself and fall in love with the God that chose you. You got it backwards. You got to know who you are before you're promoted. You see, listen to me. You find greatness when you have maximized smallness. And nobody on the side of the road. Nobody on the side of the road. And he encounters a word that shifts his perspective. And rather than growing angry, rather than getting upset, he says, what's next for me? What do I got to do? I'm going to maximize. I'm going to be faithful in the small things so that the greatness in me can come out, so that the glory in me can come out. If you're weary with the small things, if you're burnt out in life, tired all the time, you can't focus, depressed, despairing, complaining, what are you going to do with greatness? If the small stuff is wearing you out, what are you going to do with greatness? It don't get easier. Stop asking for more when you haven't mastered less. The Spirit's trying to challenge someone. Stop being intimidated by fear. The scripture said, if you're faithful over a few things, I'll make you ruler over many. But you're trying to be a ruler over many, and you haven't been faithful over a few. You're so busy reaching for the future, you're neglecting what you've been given right now. Don't get angry over the process. You're so busy trying to progress that you're neglecting right where you are and whose you are. And that's not how we progress. You master where you are, then you get promoted to the next level. The man mastered it. He didn't accuse. He didn't get critical. He didn't get ugly. He just celebrated the reality that God's glory is about to happen in my life. Where do I wash? Stand to your feet today. You got to learn how to do great things today in a small place so that God can loose you in a larger place. If you're lazy yesterday, you're going to be lazy today. And you're going to be lazy tomorrow. If you don't find a way to grab hold of the distractions of this life. But if you'll let those distractions cause you to be faithful, greatness will follow you. Don't miss the practices. You cannot play in the Super Bowl. We had David here, my friend, 4 Super Bowls with Tom Brady. He never missed a practice. Practice. You don't get greatness without practice. You don't see God's glory in rehearsal. If you don't see it, hear me, if you don't see God's glory in rehearsal, you won't see it in recital. The musicians are on the way this morning. Come on out, because I heard something that happened in here. Come on out. My daughter's one of the singers. We were 15 minutes late to practice. Frustrates the worship leader when you're late. Am I right? 2 other people were more than 15 minutes late, right? Yeah? Your tracks weren't working today, right? Yep. So did you quit? Did you throw in the towel? Did you stomp your foot? Did you cuss? Okay. Did you want to? Yeah, okay. You know what he did? He brought everybody together and said, today's a really distracting day. There's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of negativity. Let's all pray and then practice again. Because if you can't find a way to get the glory in the rehearsal, you won't see the glory in the recital later. That recital's that big, wonderful thing where all is pretty cool and you get the applause of men. But rehearsal is that private, boring, painful thing where you struggle to get it together. And there's no one there clapping. Some people do great as long as there's applause. Can you perform without the crowd? Can you study without opportunities? Can you prepare without a pulpit? Can you pray without an audience? Be patient with the process and less enthralled with the end result. Don't focus exclusively on the accruements of success. And don't compromise the rehearsal time. Some of you already bought your tuxedos. You're ready for the recital, but you haven't put the time in to the rehearsal. They say that it takes 10,000 times of repetition to be an expert at anything. That's why Tiger Woods would hit golf ball after golf ball after golf ball after golf ball. Because no one steps out on a golf course, a football field, a track, the Olympics, or a career without putting in the details of the process. Because if you have the wrong focus, you will miss your moments for deliverance. So don't starve your destiny of the attention it needs for you to progress. You know, can I just say it? Everybody Jesus picked for ministry was working. They were fishing. They were tax collectors. He didn't choose an unemployed disciple. I know that just hurt some people's feelings in here, but I'm just being real today. He interrupted people who were busy and said, if you follow me, I'm going to take you to the next dimension. How many are ready to go to the next level? But hear me, the next level isn't foreign to the level you're on. You got to be working now to get to go there. You got to be praying now to get to go there. You got to be worshiping now to get to go there. You just don't get to skip the process to be a part of the breakthrough. You got to give your heart now to go to the next level when he uses your life for his goodness and his glory. Because the next level is an escalation of the process you already have in motion. Your eyes are closed and your hearts are open right now. Lord, I pray over this house. There's someone in this place, Lord, is frustrated by the distractions and the details of their process. And they're allowing those details to derail the destiny and the future you've chosen for them. They're focused exclusively on who can I blame and whose fault is this and who could I point a finger at? Who could I blame my own difficulties on? And who could I find responsible for making me like I am? But not the man in John 9. The man in John 9 just took responsibility for who he was. He kept his mouth closed. He refused to abort his miracle by words that would be uninformed and unintelligent, filled with accusation and blame. Instead, he embraced the possibility. He took a chance. He stepped across the threshold and said, I won't get upset over what's happening to me. I won't fixate on what I looked like walking through the streets with mud on my face. But I'll head to the pool in obedience and surrender. I'll walk out my process. And in the process of the miracle, something supernatural will unfold in my life. I believe even though I can't see. So Lord, I'm praying that someone in this house would believe even though they can't see. And I'm praying that someone would walk out the details of their life right now, that they would walk out the miracle right now. Oh, in the name of Jesus, I pray over every believer listening, everyone on the internet, everyone in this house, that the power of God would reach into their homes and reach into our hearts. I'm just going to start walking it out. Even when I don't understand the process, I'm going to walk it out. If you're here right now in this room and you're willing to move toward something you don't fully understand, but you know it was an authentic drawing of God on your life, and you're willing to move forward on something you don't fully understand, you're willing to walk toward a miracle today. Maybe a little worse from the wear, darker than you thought it should be. I want you to step out of the pew and move toward this altar right now. If that's you, I want to pray with you today. If there's something in you that God's trying to do in you today, oh, that's beautiful. Keep coming. Thank you, sir. Keep coming. That's beautiful. You're just saying, okay, God, I feel your touch drawing me today, and I'm walking towards you today. If you're a guest, you're invited. Certainly members, but you're just going to walk it out. Because promotion requires the process. Deliverance requires the details. Oh, that's beautiful. You're just going to keep coming all over this house. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Say, Pastor, it makes me uncomfortable when you put pressure on this. Yeah, that's that walk where you just put God first and you don't worry about what people think or who's looking or who's watching. There you go. That's beautiful. Yeah, there's lots coming. Just kind of scoot in here. Give everyone space if you would. There you go. Thank you. Pretty simple invitation now that you're in the altar. I'm just going to count to 3. And when I count to 3, I just want you to pray this prayer. Lord, I submit to the process in my life. Unfold the details. I surrender. I want you to open your spirit and your heart to His path and His plan. You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to understand it. I want you to make yourself willing right now, because the process to greatness is soon to unfold in your life. With everyone's eyes closed.